Hello and welcome to the Tough Cover Podcast with your host, as always, Mark Henry Jr. And we are still in New York City. We're in a hotel. If anyone that's been listening to the Tough Cover Podcast before knows and checks it out on Saturday and Sunday, I've had some good days when I've recorded these in hotels. So maybe let's hope that juju continues. But I'm in New York City, doing the whole weekend with New York City here. But obviously, I'm here because yesterday I was at Barstool Sports for Pick Central at noon. I was on their gambling show with Brandon Walker, with Rico Bosco, with Marty Mush, and with Ben Mintz, who have all been nothing but the best to me. They've all been incredibly supportive. They all gave me the opportunity to come in and chop it up with them on a Football Friday, to talk college football, talk NFL, talk a little NBA. So I had an absolute blast. It was so cool meeting the guys behind those guys at Barstool, TJ and Za, and then other guys. So hopefully that's not the last time you'll see me there. For any new followers, I've been doing this for a while. I am a pretty good gambler, so hopefully I'm able to help win you guys some money on Conference Championship Saturday. We're going to start with the football picks that I have notes on. I do have a couple basketball and hockey picks for the end of the show. I don't really have any stats or notes on them because the lines are so new and all this research was done in advance of yesterday. But we're going to try to keep this pod snappy, keep it under 15 minutes, and we're going to go through the college football picks first at 12 o'clock. In the Maction Championship, I like NIU plus 3.5 versus Kent State for 2 units. NIU is 8-4 against the spread, while Kent State is 6-6. Kent State coming off of an emotional high, winning and clinching their spot in the MAC championship by stopping a 2-point conversion against Miami of Ohio. I think this is a 50-50 game, so I'm happy to take the underdogs here. And if you've listened to Pick'em with Rico, Dave Portnoy, and Big Cat, this was a stat that I unearthed before that, before Katie Stats dropped it on the world. Underdogs have covered the last 5 MAC championships and won the last 3 outright. So the underdog is really the spot that you want to bet here in Maction. And I think there's a very good chance this comes down to a drive or a field goal at the end or overtime, like it always seems to. Rocky Lombardi is the QB for NIU, a transfer from Michigan State, who has an all-time football name. He also looks a little bit like Malfoy from Harry Potter. So keep an eye out for that during the game. NIU plus 3.5. I believe this is their 8th conference championship in the last 12 years. I think they're 4-3 in those games, if I'm not mistaken. So NIU is the class of the MAC. They might be going to the Arizona Bowl with Barstool. We'll see. Let's get to the big game, though. This is the game everyone wants to talk about. At 4 o'clock, I've got Georgia -6 versus Bama for 4 units. I would take it up to 6.5 where it's at now. I got it at 6 early. Bama has just not impressed me in a long time, especially in those games with LSU, Arkansas, and Auburn, who are none of them are very good teams. Bama was a 2-point conversion away from losing to a bad Auburn team. The common opponents game, I know that is foolproof sometimes, and it's how you get in trouble, but it's not kind to Bama here. LSU, Auburn, and Arkansas all gave Bama real games, like I mentioned, and all got embarrassed by Georgia. Georgia is allowing 6.9 points per game, not even a touchdown. Second place in that category is at 15 points per game, more than double what they're giving up. Georgia is so by far the best defense in the country. I think that the best defense of all time in college football. Georgia is 8-4 against the spread, while Bama is a surprising 6-6 and only 2-3 on the road against the spread. I just don't think there's any argument for betting Bama outside of the colors and the logos and Saban and, the Crimson Tide, Roll Tide. I don't think anyone's looking at the matchups here and the trends here and can make a reasonable argument that Alabama is going to win this game or even cover this game. I think Georgia's just a way, way better team. Now, obviously, all that could go out the window if Bama shows up and those athletes that people love to talk about show up. And Bama, we see the Bama that came out against Ole Miss, or we see the Bama that came out against Tennessee. Maybe that offense can just transcend. I don't think so. I think Georgia's defense is just too good. Give me Georgia -6 for my bet of the day, my best bet, my lock of the night. And let's get to another bet that I really like here. Cincinnati -10. This line's moved up to 10.5 or 11. I would still take it. But Cincinnati -10 versus Houston for 3 units. This is going to be the kiss of death right here because every time I say this, the team goes and loses. I liked Clemson in August to win the title. They lost to Georgia. I liked Oklahoma after Caleb Williams broke out at Red River. They lost to Baylor. I liked Ohio State going in for the Michigan game. They lost to Michigan. I truly think Cincinnati can compete for the title. And if not compete for the title, I think that they can win a college football playoff game, especially against a Michigan or an Oklahoma State, but probably a Michigan. I am praying that Cincinnati gets Michigan in the first round in a 2-3 matchup. I think Cincinnati will be anywhere from +7 to +14, and I will hammer Cincinnati on the spread and the money line at whatever number that's at against Michigan. Cincinnati has the fifth best scoring defense in the nation, allowing under 16 points per game. They also have the 21st best scoring offense at 39.2 points per game. I think with the NFL guys they have in Desmond Ridder, Myjai Sanders, Kobe Bryant, Sauce Gardner, they have all the guys to compete with the Georgia. And in my opinion, to beat a Michigan, a Bama, an Oklahoma State, I really think that this is a statement game for Cincy. I think Cincy comes out, Fickle's staying. There's no rumors about him leaving. I think Cincy drops the hammer on Houston's defense. They might give up some points to Houston, although Cincy's defense is top 5 in the country, like I said. But I just don't think Houston's defense will be able to stop Cincinnati's offense and Desmond Ridder. So let's get to my last college football. Oh, no, I have 2 more. My apologies. 2 8 o'clock games here. I've got Pitt to win the ACC. This is a future I placed a while ago. I would bet Pitt spread, but because I have that future, I feel it's a 5-unit to win 4-unit future. I feel good just rooting Pitt out and rooting for Pitt to win the game. I'm not going to hedge either. You look at these 2 teams in Pitt and Wake Forest, it's a pretty nondescript ACC championship, but Pitt and Wake Forest are both great offenses with great quarterbacks that are both very fun to watch. This could be a 70-67 game. Like this could go as high as you could name it. But Wake Forest, they have no semblance of a defense. The reason I'm going with Pitt here, I'm not going to try to tell you that Pitt's defense is very good, but it's doubly as good as Wake Forest. Wake Forest defense is an atrocity. They gave up 56 to the triple option in Army, and they were even throwing the ball with some success. I'll go with Pat Narduzzi and the Pitt Panthers to win the ACC. I think they hang 60. I truly think Kenny Pickett should be considered for the Heisman if he has a day like he should against the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. So I like Pitt to win the ACC, and that's why I have a big future on it. So let's get to my last play of the day. Michigan team total over 26.5 versus Iowa. I know they have to keep the total low because of Iowa's play style, but Michigan has scored 27 plus in 7 of their last 8 games and in 10 of their last 12. Iowa gave up over 20 to Nebraska, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Purdue. I think they'll get pummeled by Michigan's offense. Corum and Haskins will run all over Iowa. Michigan will limit turnovers, which is really Iowa's only plan of attack is to force turnovers. So either my least favorite team in the world gets me a win here, or I just curse Michigan with bad juju. So, I'll take it either way. But those are my college football picks. Let's get to the rest of the card for basketball, for hockey. At 1 o'clock, I'm in New York City. So when in Rome, bing bong, Knicks -1.5 versus the Nuggets for 2 units at 1 o'clock. And I also have the over in that game in Knicks Nuggets at 210.5. The last 6 games for Denver have went over the total, and 3 of the last 4 for New York have went over the total, and most of those totals have been higher than 210.5. I love that number, over 210.5. And so Knicks -1.5 for 2 units, over 210.5 for 2 units at 1 o'clock over the Denver Nuggets. And then moving on to college basketball at 4 o'clock, I've got the BYU Fighting Mormons -2.5 at Missouri State. I think BYU is going to bounce back after a bad loss to Utah Valley. Before that, they had beaten teams like Utah, Oregon, San Diego State. I don't think BYU is a bad team. I think they had a letdown spot, and I think this line is an overreaction to that letdown spot. I think BYU is still the much better team than Missouri State here. Missouri State, who is coming off of losses to Illinois State and Eastern Tennessee State University. So I think BYU is the better team. I think that they walk to a win here. So -2.5 for 1 unit. And then my hockey play of the day, Marky Pucks, shout out. The Columbus Blue Jackets, team total, over 2.5. I go back to Columbus. Columbus and Seattle are my 2 over teams of 2021. So Columbus Blue Jackets, hope you make the playoffs so I can keep betting your overs throughout the whole year. But yeah, Blue Jackets, team total, over 2.5. The total in the game is 6. The Caps totals all the way up at 3.5. So if you like the over, I really think that the way to go is to bet the team total for the Columbus Blue Jackets instead of the over in the full game. So let's get to my last play before I recap this and get this out of here for you guys. St. Louis -2 versus UAB. I'm buying in on St. Louis. I thought that their loss to Memphis is, I just think Memphis had too many athletes for St. Louis. So I think you take that out of it. Unless St. Louis is playing a team like Memphis or a team like Duke, I think that they're going to be in most games. I think they're going to be in, every game. They beat Boise as an underdog. They beat Stephen F. Austin pretty handily as a short favorite. They handled Mercer. They blew them out. So I think St. Louis is a little better than we think right now. I don't know that UAB is as bad as I think they are, because you look at their losses and they barely lost to South Carolina and they barely lost to San Francisco and they covered the game, but they are on a 4 straight cover streak. But St. Louis has covered 4 of the last 5. So that's a 1-unit play. Honestly, I wouldn't advertise that play, to be honest, but that's just a hunch. Let's run through my summary here. At 12 o'clock, I like NIU plus 3.5 for 2 units. At 1 o'clock, I like the Knicks -1.5 and over 210.5 in Nuggets Knicks, both for 2 units. At 4 o'clock, I like Cincinnati -10 versus Houston for 3 units. Also at 4 o'clock, I like Georgia -6 at Bama for 5 units. Also at 4 o'clock, I like BYU -2.5 at Missouri State in college basketball for 1 unit. At 7 o'clock in hockey, I like the Columbus Blue Jackets team total over 2.5 at the Washington Capitals. At 8 o'clock, I like Michigan team total over 26.5 versus Iowa for 3 units. And then at 8 o'clock, I have my Pitt to win the ACC future against Wake Forest. And then lastly, I have St. Louis -2 versus UAB for 1 unit. So that is my slate for the day. Thank you all for joining. Thanks to everyone who joined yesterday for Pick Central. Thanks to everyone in the comments. I was expecting overwhelmingly negative, overwhelmingly derogatory, but it seemed like it was just Joe Kidd, Spice Rack, and Sab Rossi, the same people who've been talking shit about me for over a year now. So, to all you people out there in the chat boys, my fellow chat boys, who followed me yesterday or who have been following me for a while and supported me yesterday, can't thank you enough for the support. I've been doing this kind of stuff, gambling and giving out picks and researching sports and researching these trends and stuff since before anyone cared, since I had 200 followers and no one was paying attention to me. So it's nice to have you guys to bounce this off of and to talk some sports with on Twitter. And that's going to do it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the Tough Cover Click, and enjoy the winners.